me in my time.
That's very fair. Yeah.
And then I told her that she can go now.
Yeah. All right. Keela, tell us what does that mean to you?
Oh, so I've thought about this all day, and there's a lot with that. Like there's a lot, But to make it very simple, I'm an empath. Okay, so I feel like uh, to me, I don't forgive for other people. I do it so that I have peace. I can live with myself. I don't care if the other person has accepted it or not, that I forgave them, or if they even think they did anything wrong. I mean, go back to my childhood, I mean, there's a reason that I have CPTSD, you don't do something to your stepchild from age 8 to 14 and never get punished for it, but I still forgive him because it's for me. I don't want that eating in me my whole life. So I learned that real quick. And it's just the empath in me. I cannot, I cannot, I can't hold and harbor that inside of me. It just eats you alive. So I had to learn to let it go. And I did
Yeah.
it for myself. And that's what it means for me.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's, you know, I I don't like when everybody always like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just I tell my residents all the time, because I said, I don't look back, I look forward. Because that is
Mm.
so with them. They're always wanting to please me or to, oh Kilo, baby, you don't have to tell me you're sorry for what you did yesterday. Let's just go forward and be better today than we were yesterday. And let's be better tomorrow than we were today. And that's simple.
It sounds simple. It's not always.
I think
Um,
it's because of the compartmentalization that I was had to do my whole life. So now I've learned to just
Fair.
if you put it in and you don't let it go back out, it's just gonna eat. And you
It's
don't
going to
want that.
fester and
Yeah. And I don't do
eventually
it for others. I
explode.
do it for myself. So
Hmm. Okay, Misha, what does forgiveness mean to you?
Well, I think that's one reason why I can't um, deal with forgiveness as easily as I probably should, is because it's for myself.
Hmm.
Forgiveness for me is organic. It's something that is constant, and things can come up that I think that I've forgotten about, and
Mm.
then in the heat of a moment or something can trigger, and I'm like, why do I still feel this way? And I get mad at myself for feeling that way because I thought I had moved forward. Um,
Hmm.
I taught my girls long ago about the tube of toothpaste. You can never get the toothpaste back in the tube. And there's always that residue. There's always that little bits that's always going to be there. And you just have to be able to try to work through it and know that we're human and we're going to have our feelings. And sometimes forgiveness is needed. And it's really, really
Yeah,
hard. But
it
that's
can
all we
be
can do is
super hard.
survive. Yeah,
we can do hard things.
we can.
Absolutely.
We can. Every single thing we can do it through, we've got this. Um, yeah, I think it's just I don't want to ever have to do something to somebody that they cannot forgive me for, and I have. And
Hmm.
again, it's organic in the fact that just trying to gain that forgiveness just as much as giving it. It's one of those things that you have to love each other enough or walk away.
Okay. And the peace to do so and the courage to do so as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Indigo, let's introduce yourself and then you can answer the question what forgiveness means to you.
Hi, I'm Indigo. I'm around the chats. I would say forgiveness to me is it's what I do to heal myself. Because whatever someone did that hurt me is still wrong,
Hmm.
right? Like whether or not they get justice for it or whatever. But sometimes it's easier to forgive when I know that the person I'm forgiving might change. When I know they haven't and they're still out there I have a couple ex-friends who are still out there to mutuals trying to lie about me and spread rumors, and it's been, gosh, like 7 years since I cut off relationships with them. And I think, like, how could I, like, I've let go the situation that happened,
Mhm.
but I can't forgive the friends who hang around that person and listen to them lie and don't stick up for me and know what they're saying is untrue. And in fact, I pulled away from those people. I haven't gone as far as unfriending them, but I unfollowed them on Facebook. I don't go out of my way to text them. If they're at events, I'll be nice. But when I look them in the eye, knowing they're hearing the horrible things that person is saying about me, and they're just laughing or staying quiet because they feel awkward, like,
Mhm.
what was I to you then? Like, not a friend, obviously. Because this friend also, like, my best friend stuck up for me at a concert to this person, and then she turned on that person. So she's out there bad mouthing me and two of my best friends to people we've known since high school. And I sit here thinking, like, has it, if someone shows their true colors that well, it
Mhm.
says more about you that you continue to stay with them than it does to the people who decided to put their foot down and say, I'm not doing this anymore.
It's
You
kind of like if somebody tells you who they are by doing that kind of thing, listen to them. It's who they are.
Actions, yeah. And I would say I forgive people whose actions show that they actually feel remorse for what happened. Like, I was in a different online community where somebody came in, exploded. I was one of the targets of this person, and other people came to me later and said, like, gosh, I feel so dumb for not reaching out to you and just asking you what happened. And just
Mhm.
hearing the side of it from you. And, I said, you know what? It's really confusing. We're all in different time zones. There's no way, like, 20 of us could get on a call and go through step by step what this person was saying. So I kind of had to deal with the fallout. I'm still dealing with the fallout of that.
For
So
sure.
to me, the hurt doesn't go away, but, like, I built an image in my head of a house, and I kind of keep images of myself in it. And I think, like, you don't get to live rent free in that house anymore. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I'm letting you out of my head is really what forgiveness does for me, so that I don't have to, I don't care what you say because I know it's not true, type of thing.
Exactly. Oh, that's a great. I've heard similar analogies, but I haven't heard anybody actually say, "In my head, I've built a house," and legit given themselves that image. So that's a really
It
great. That's a
was
great image.
it was the only way my therapist could get me to, like, Misha was talking about forgiving herself. It was the only way my therapist could get me to, like, not beat myself up when I left
Mm,
Barrington, was to be like, okay, if you were in a house, you're 34, if you were in a house with a girl that is you at 27,
mhm.
and she was going through the same things you did, would you let her talk about herself? Because at that point I wasn't out as non-binary yet. So she was like, would you let her talk about yourself the way you're talking about yourself? And she's like, I want you to try to journal and write conversations that you have with yourself. And so, like, by doing that, like, sometimes I have to stop doing that because it digs another hole, like, it opens another can of worms, and then I'm like, oh, this is a rabbit hole. But yeah, so that's why I imagine it that way.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and I'm just going to chime in here and say that an image that my mom taught me. My mom has taught me so many things. It's almost impossible to say how many things. But one of the things she taught me was that forgiveness is like a picket fence. You can say one mean thing to somebody or do one mean thing, and a nail goes into the fence. And it's not a big deal, but but then you have nail after nail after nail after nail. And you end up with all of this hurt right there. And then the person comes back and they're like, I feel bad for this. Let me pull out these nails. So then the not the pain, but the hurt action is no longer there. They've asked for forgiveness. They've asked for redemption or something like that. But then when you look back, you still see the holes, right? Just because you have taken back the what you have done doesn't mean there isn't still a repercussion to an extent. And you can paint over that fence as many times as you like, but you will always see that little hole, even once it becomes a pinhole. So that's kind of, to me, what forgiveness looks like in my head. And I'm going to go to the next question. And why do you do it? And many of you have already answered this, but we'll go around again. Just, yes, Brian?
I'll be right back. I got another dog I got to deal with.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
It's okay. I forgive your dog for interrupting the stream. No, just kidding. I love dogs.
Good job, Indigo. So why do I forgive? Like you've mentioned before, it's to release myself. Again, I think in images. I don't just think in linear fashion. I think in images. And the image that comes to my mind is, you're angry at somebody, you haven't forgiven them. It's like you're feeding yourself poison and expecting them to die, right? So it is to release myself from that poison. It doesn't mean that what they did is okay at all. And it doesn't mean that they need to be back in my life at all. It means that I'm releasing myself from that bondage. I'm going to mention a comment up here by Shire Kitty. Forgiveness can be a verb and a noun. And yeah, forgiveness is an action. It's not just a thing. It's an action that we do. Sandy Wandy has a great comment. My dad is the one who taught me about forgiveness. It made me think that he must have had a great mother who also taught him about forgiveness. Absolutely. Yeah. And then Shire Kitty continues, I've put nails in other people's fences. So have I. I've put some big nails in some fences, let me tell you. We all make mistakes. How to forgive myself exactly is harder than forgiving others. That's a question that I didn't put into our discussion, but forgiving yourself is absolutely key. It's something that most of us cannot say that we've been able to do. We're always harder on ourselves than other people are, for sure. Mm-hmm. So why do I do it? I do it so that I don't give that person the free rent inside my brain, right? Mary, tell me, why is it that you have chosen to forgive?
Well, I think there's a powerful story, and I got it with my dad, who was at the age of 6 years old. His father, because my grandmother was mentally ill, and got married for the third time, left out of his life, gave the rights over to the third husband, and said, bye, son, and that was it. What he didn't realize is he really scarred my dad for life, because as a 6-year-old, it was like, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? Did my dad not love me anymore? This and that. And when I was probably about 13, 14, I went to my dad and I said, I really want to know, I found Grandpa, and I want to just get to know him a little bit. He was my only biological grandfather alive. And he said, that's fine, but don't tell me. I don't want to know nothing about it. You can call him. Don't have anything to do about it. And I did. And he said, did your dad give you permission? And I said, yes. And shortly after that, he said, my son's birthday is May 3rd. He said, do you think I can call him? And I said, try. And they got on the phone and talked for 2 hours. And what happened with that whole thing was the healing process for my dad started. he realized that it wasn't because of him that his father left. It was because he was scared to death of my grandmother, who was suffering with bipolar and wasn't medically treated properly. And, we went and saw him. They got to sit around the table. I got to see these two men that hadn't seen each other in 40 years saying the same exact thing. It's a piece of cake and acting the same way. And very shortly after that, he had had a stroke and he got worse. And towards the end of his life, we went to see him in the nursing home. And he just motioned over here. And I said, "Yes, Grandpa." And he said, "I love you." Nothing he could have ever given me would have been enough, for those words were amazing. And his wife looked at me and she said, "Well, what about me?" She looked at him and she said, "What about me?" And she looked at me later. She goes, "You know how priceless? He never says that to anybody." But I had brought his son back to him before he died. I had made that healing process happen. And I realized the importance of holding on to hate. And with that became 8 brothers and sisters my dad welcomed open. Not all of them accepted my dad, but he was close to some of them. But that was a huge lesson in why you do it and why you don't hold on to this hate. And I saw my dad, even though he dealt with some issues and so forth, I saw him heal from that. You could see it developed in front of you. So that was a huge lesson for me to say, why do we do it even though we don't want to? And I'm sure glad I got to see my grandfather before he died. I didn't get to know him as well as I'd have liked, but I got to hear "I love you" from that man before he passed.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
That was rare for him. He was a very, very stoic, and it was very rare for him to do that. So,
and the releasing the hate part, that's I think huge right there. Releasing the hate, right?
Well, and then my dad realized that it wasn't because of him that he left. It was because of the falling out between my grandfather and my grandmother and her mental illness. It had nothing to do with my dad, but my dad took it, I think, all on him. My
small
dad
children
left,
do.
And no counseling was provided. And hi, Dad, one day, and this man I don't know for nothing is my new dad. I mean, you just wouldn't. And there's back in the the 50s, and you wouldn't do that today for nothing. But it was like bye and goodbye. And where did my dad go? I've been doing this for 6 years. It wasn't a baby. So, and it helped me understand my dad a lot more because I could sympathize with him.
For sure. Knowing the whys make all the difference in the world. So, Brian, tell me the why do you choose to forgive?
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit with my
yes, you did.
Answer. For forgiveness, it can be a selfish thing. It can be a very selfish thing, and it can also be a selfless thing. It's like most things in life. It's multifaceted and everything. But I guess the first thing that comes to mind is yes, it's for me. Like with my sister's dad, I did that for me, but I did a lot of it for him, but also for me. So it just depends. It can and it's hard to contemplate. It's like I got mommy issues out the yin yang. If you know any of my story, I have mommy issues out the wazoo. That's where it's hard because she does not want to face her own sins.
Yeah.
So, do I forgive her for stuff that she says I should just suck it up? Suck it up, Chuck, and move on.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be a question later on. Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as the main reason too, because it's, in most cases it's the right thing to do. But never forget, fool me once,
there you go.
Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Absolutely.
Don't expect, like if someone hurts you, if someone disappoints you, let them down. it's really hard, and I work on this every day. I don't try to, it's you got to not dwell on it and just move on. And that's something that I've worked on all my life because of my trauma, because of my experiences, and me being a writer and an overthinker. I would dwell on things. Like recently, I had a dust up with a friend of mine over $70. I don't think he's my friend. I never, he might have never been my friend. And I've known the man for ever. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever talk about it or not. I don't know. But I'm just, if he contacts me, I might say something to him. I might not. Who knows? But I'm moving on with my life.
Yeah. And for some people, $70 is like a big deal. It's 70, and other people it may as well be 7,000. Because it's just this unreachable. Pardon?
Yeah, it's not the $70 per se. It's not the $70 per se. It's the principle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because if the roles were reversed, he'd be my ass about it. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, Crystal, why is it that you choose to forgive?
So.
To set myself free, I guess, is the easy answer. I guess you eventually have to forgive for yourself. But it is a process, and it can take time. So slowly getting there with the ones that I can't forgive yet. But
yeah,
it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. Keela, how about yourself? Why is it that you have chosen to forgive?
Two quick things. First, Mary's story, what she said is so similar to what I watched, but I watched it happen. My mom and my grandmother did not get along my entire life of growing up. My grandmother tried to replace me, and she tried to be the mom, the grandma to me, that she wasn't the mom to my mother. She ran off and left my mom, and so my mom didn't have her. I did. I was the apple of her eye. I mean, literally. And they really never talked. And when my grandmother was passing away of cancer, and I brought her to the hospital that last time, and I knew it was going to be the last time. And my mom's 2 hours away, and I called my mom. I said, "You need to come up here, please." I said, "Mama's not going to make it out of here." And so she came. And for 7 days, my grandmother was in ICU. And we knew what my grandma, I knew what my grandma wanted anyway, and all the doctors knew, we knew what was going on. And instead of me being the one, which I could have been selfish, and I could have been like, get out of my way, I'm going to hold her hand, I'm the one that's been with her my whole life. I stepped out to the doorway, and I let my mother go up there. And as my grandmother was taking her last breath, she opened her eyes. And instead of my mother telling her, "I love you," she didn't. She said, "I forgive you."
I just got goosebumps.
That is.
Wow.
And I was really upset at my mom for a long time about that. I didn't understand it then. Now I do. That is not, my grandma didn't need to hear that she was loved, or that my mom would hear. What my grandma needed to hear was exactly what my mother said. And it took me a long time. Yeah, it took me a long time to accept that. I was really angry about it. But then as I more wise, you grow, you age, you learn. And I realized that that's what my grandmother needed. And my mom knew that. So that's one reason that showed me right there that if they would have just done that so much sooner, my life would have been easier. But people skip school to go with their friends. I skipped school to go see my grandma. Okay.
Who needs easy though? Come on now, really.
We do hard things. But
we sure do.
Is I don't like the resentment, the It took me a long time with my, I don't call him, I'm just going to say that the man. Okay. I'm not giving him a title. He doesn't deserve that. So, it doesn't mean you
Fair.
forget it. It doesn't mean you forget it. Never, I mean, you may never forget the action that was done to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that teaches us to always watch out for stuff, and watch out for those kind of red flags that go up. But I also am not allowing it to eat and grow in me and cause resentment. I am an empath. I am all consuming with everyone's emotions. I do not need to be all consumed with mine. So it's got to go. And I literally look at it as a release. Like it's just a release out of here. Gone.
Excellent. Okay. Misha, how about yourself? Why do you choose to do it, or why can you not? In your situation, it is so fresh. So why do you choose to, and why can you not?
There's such a spectrum. There's such a range with all of it. And I'm sitting here thinking back on everything with my life. And from birth, and I talked about this a little bit on Mental Health Matters recently. From birth, I feel like I have carried the scarlet letter for my parents, my bio parents, because I'm adopted. And I have been everybody else's punishment, basically, I absorb. And so I know how that feels. And I know that there's always, like Keela said, when we grow in our knowledge in our life and we've learned through that, then we see things differently and we're able to have a better understanding of it. If we hold something, then we're stuck there and we can't ever get out of it. And forget it. This is such an amazing topic for me right now because of what I'm going through. Just like in the moment, I parented with a lot of guilt. And because I have not been able to forgive myself for it, for the things in my past that I've done or not been good enough for, my children have had to suffer through that and they've had to struggle their lives. And they weren't taught the proper ways to forgive themselves or others either. And so when I say organic, it's organic. It definitely is. When I found out about losing Christina, the first thing I did was write a very hateful letter to everybody and anybody I could think of on Facebook.
Wow.
And I felt angry. And I wanted to blow the world up. And I wanted to punish everybody in the world that had anything to do with her because I was so mad at myself.
Yeah.
And now going through the whole justice system and still nothing being done, not even the victims advocates doing what they're supposed to, helping me with therapy. That's one of the things that we were supposed to have, as a resource. And it's just, I've rethought a lot of it because what happened with Christina, what happened with me, what happened with Cedric, which is the man that took her. I don't know what happened to him, but he had to have been in a bad spot himself. What could have caused him? What could have made all that happen? I don't know. And so when it comes to forgiveness, all I can do is pray for them to understand what they've done. Because it's not going to bring anything back. It's not going to bring her back. And so I did think that I had forgiven once upon a time, but the whole grief thing is different too. But I want to understand and I want to tell him that I don't hate him. I'm angry still. Still very, very angry. But a lot of that is just unresolved for myself too. And so I'm probably not the best person to have on panel for forgiveness. Because I don't really have very good hold on it. I know what it feels like to be the person that people can't forgive for things that I've not done, let alone the things that I have. And I don't want to put that on anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I come on your channel, I cry.
That's okay. That's okay. Do you know, Crystal points it out regularly.
It's okay. We're all crying.
That's right. I'm
I mean,
not
no,
crying,
it's
you're
raining.
crying.
No, it's raining inside. You know
That's
what they
right.
say.
Right.
And crying is healing.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Crying isn't just crying washes things away. You use salt to cleanse. You use water to cleanse. Tears are salt water.
Oh, I like
I've
that.
Just thought of
never
that now.
looked at it that way.
That was pretty good.
I like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Misha, I would like
I
to.
might
Nobody's
have
I
to
would
use-
like.
perfect, or nobody's
Okay,
perfect, or
what is
you
it?
have a chair that doesn't want to stay up. So if you see me
Mhm.
sinking, it's because I tried to fix it 3 times and I'm done.
Mine's particularly will be constant.
What did you want to say,
Crystal, I didn't
Crystal?
hear you.
Misha, I just want to say to you, you have come so far in starting to forgive this guy who did this to Christina. And I just want you to know that I see you starting to forgive him.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Big hugs to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Okay, I'm
Right.
going with you.
Indigo, what is it? Why is it that you choose to forgive?
Last but not least.
So there's definitely people I haven't forgiven. So I'll start with that. My best friend in this whole world ended up with the worst family.
Mm.
And I've seen him go through hell and back. I've seen him try to forgive them and let him back into his life, and they just are still horrible people. And I cannot forgive them for doing that to their child.
Mm. Mhm.
Because I saw it, like, I told him, if they ever show up on your doorstep and I am on your doorstep, they better leave. Like, I restrain myself a lot because I can scrap, but I don't, because, you know, it's illegal to just walk up and punch people. But I'm like, if I ever see their face again, it's not going to be words. I'm either going to call the cops right out and tell them to leave your property, or like, I'm probably going to lose it. And it's just the level, I don't understand how anybody could cause another human the level of pain that they caused him. And I think, Keela, the reason why your mom probably said, I forgive you, is she knew she loved your mom. I mean, your grandmother.
Yeah.
I mean, what child is born hating their parent? Like, you have to
Yeah.
be given a reason. You know, you have to be taught to do that, either through
You're right.
neglect or outright bullying or whatever you've been through.
Yeah. She just was never there for my mom, like, ever.
Yeah. And so,
But-
you know, but she came back and was there for you, which I think
Which caused a whole bunch of different problems.
it
But
does.
yes.
Yeah, I have
irony.
complicated family history
Yeah.
too. Like, my birth mother passed away, and reading her journals about her mental health and how it was for her being around my grandma, and then because I'm adopted by my biological aunt.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so hearing her talk about how my grandma would like withhold love if you didn't do something the way she wanted you to. I didn't know my grandma for 8 years because she told my birth mom she was a failure for giving me up for adoption to my aunt,
Oh, wow.
because she believed that you have the child and you should raise it. And a lot of other drama happened. But
Yeah.
eventually by the time I was in 7th or 8th grade and she passed away, they had reconciled. And I think that the thing is, like, there's just an amount of pain inside that, like, is a small child. Like, whether or not you've experienced abuse as a child, but especially if you have.
Yeah.
So it's not healing your adult self that you're going to therapy for. I mean, you might go on a bunch of tangents about that, but it's really the core that makes you disassociate or
Oh, yeah.
pull back is
Yeah.
like the hardest thing, and I still haven't been able to do it, is envision myself telling my younger self it's okay, because in a lot of ways it doesn't feel okay still.
I agree with that.
Now I'm starting, like, through my experiences with my ex Carrington, I learned my mom wasn't able to step up the way I needed her to because she had our trauma from college that she's never dealt with. And to see her self confronted with her youngest child having bruises and all this stuff, and I asked her to take the pictures and she couldn't. I was mad at her for a long time. But then when I stepped back, I was like, but I'm her baby. Like, she went through hell in court to adopt me. She didn't talk to her own mother for 8 years because she went through with this adoption for me. And so I think to myself, like, there's so much from her generation that she hasn't spoken about, that I learned about from my birth mother only because she wrote about it. And in writing, you unlock, you can't stop your hand once you hit the button, right? But you can stop your mouth. You can be in therapy and be like, I'm not going to talk about it. But I've noticed that when I really get into writing, my hands just fly across the page or the keyboard or the whatever, and I can't stop until it's done. And so I think with that, it's like, if this is going to follow me in one way or another for the rest of my life, I want to be able to use it to, like, help other people, or to understand other people in my life, why they can't get past a barrier, because I feel like that's, I can forgive someone for doing a bad, I can not forgive the friends who might be listening to me being trashed and not sticking up for me. That I have a hard time understanding. But I can forgive the crappy friend because we were friends at one point. I knew their mental health. I'm learning more through talking in therapy or researching it myself, like what condition they had and like how that factored into everything. It doesn't make it right what happened. But part of my therapy was to heal myself, was to go back to a couple people in college that, I put nails in their fence, so to speak. And basically I wrote them Facebook messages to say, like, dear so-and-so, hi, it's me. Remember this horrible thing we went through? And then I was like, I just want you to know that I feel bad. I'm kind of going on a tangent here.
That's okay.
I feel bad for what I did that hurt you. And I'm not asking for your forgiveness because it's not my place. But I want you to know that I feel remorse for what I've done. And as the person I've grown into, like, this apology is part of my healing. I heard back from like 3 out of the 5.
Hey,
And
that's not.
and I mean, I wasn't shooting for 5 for 5. I was thinking to myself, like, if people want me to forgive them, I also have to understand that they might not be at a place where they can forgive me, because that has to be them wanting to heal themselves. So it's a two-way street, right? It's, I can heal and become a better person, but if I meet up with someone who hurt me and they're still the same, and I'm here and they're here, but they're spiteful and they're still wanting to hurt me, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I forgive you for the past, but you're not good for my present. Like, I still see all our memories from the past as very fond ones, but from point A to now, no bueno. So
Yeah.
and it's not my place to forgive my best friend's parents, but I don't think I ever could. I just don't understand why you would hurt your own child. Like, I just can't. Right? I can't understand. I need to understand to forgive, I think, for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right.
Just
We've
a
had some
quick
great.
point.
Yes, Mary.
just a quick point. I figured out this chair was a metaphor for tonight because forgiveness is an up and down thing. And I've raised it, and I've come down, and I've raised it, and I figured out, okay.
Love it.
That's what happens in forgiveness, is that it does go up and down. And
Yeah,
I know,
absolutely.
just real quick, I'm going to be coming on when I get back. I'm doing a very difficult thing and somewhat joyous thing too, is when we're out of town, I'm going back to the city where I left after my life was threatened by my ex-husband, and I'm going back to take my daughter, because we'll only be an hour away from it, to where she grew up, or not where she grew up, where she was born, those little things before she didn't remember any of it, and take her back. But at the same time, it's going to be hard. I didn't leave under the best circumstances, but I'm going to get to leave the way I want to leave now. And I'm going to have all my family there to support me, and we're going to go through all the places, and everything's going to be in my back window. So, and that's part of healing. Even if your chair doesn't want to stay up.
And we can do hard things, Mary. You can do it.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to read some messages here that have been going through the chat that I think are absolutely wonderful. Shire Kitty says, I can come up with excuses for other people so easily and quickly. I am exactly the same way.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same way.
But someone goes, you're excusing this, but you won't give yourself an excuse. Like, you hold yourself up this high over your own head, but you'll give this person down here an excuse. And I'm like, listen, yes, you're absolutely right. I'm working on it.
Exactly. Yep. And then Shire Kitty also said, I'm wrong so often that forgiving others is a survival skill at this point. If I forgive, I can put it away in a box and it's gone. It's dealt with, right?
That's how I
And then you
feel.
put that box on the curb, kick it, and then the trash can pick it up again. Yeah. Okay. Sophia says, you can always forgive someone for their shortcomings while also acknowledging that they made their choices, not being able to do better.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to
Accountability.
Yes.
absolutely.
You can hold someone accountable, but if they don't step up and stay accountable, it's not on you to keep them there.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's a hard lesson
And
for me.
And I raised an autistic child, so I had to learn very easily, or not easily, but I had to learn a lot when she was in an autistic meltdown and would say something I know she didn't mean. You know what? She said it. It hurt. I go and cry. I come back, and I'd forgive her over and over and over again. It wasn't easy, but I had to do it.
Yeah. Hockeytown John says, Misha, forgiveness is a lengthy process, and there's no time limit on healing. We can forgive, but never forget.
I'm so happy to see John in the chat. But yes, I agree with that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And you know what? I think that's the thing, right? Is society makes us feel, PSA soapbox really fast moment. Society goes, you have to go to a funeral and get better in one day and pick up your life after all this trauma happens, and you have to say you forgive, and then you have to never mention it again because we're like, what, one-dimensional beings that don't have continuous feelings? No.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is no time limit on your healing, period.
No.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, those of us with medical issues know that keeps going.
For sure. Absolutely.
3 years, it's still difficult. 20 years later, my grandfather.
Yep. So Sophia says again, I think one of the strongest things a parent can do is admit they're not equipped to raise a child and dealing with the judgment for giving the child their better chance without you. That's huge.
That is
right.
humongous.
Huge. Especially as somebody who's had to give a child away for adoption. Sometimes it's your choice to give the child, sometimes it's not. Either way, there's a lot of guilt. And then the child is raised at times with probably a similar sense of abandonment or guilt, or I don't know. I've never been adopted.
Confusion.
Confusion.
It's
It's
very
confusion.
confusing. Even being adopted by my own family, I could see when
Mm,
my okay, for everyone who's confused just because my birth mom and my adopted mom are sisters, I'm just going to say that my adoptive mom is my aunt, just so it's like linear. So like when I would see my aunt, uncle, and cousin around each other, I very much felt I'm the outsider, and they did not do anything to make me feel that way. It's just I've never thought like them. I've never interacted in the world the same way they did. And then when I got close to my birth mom, I always had this feeling that she wasn't just my aunt. Like I
mm,
innately knew that there was something more to this person. And I think as children, we only have for reference a parent or a guardian.
mhm.
And we think it's our fault anytime anything goes wrong because we have no other frame of reference in our life, in our world, day to day that makes sense or gives us consistency. And so I think that's why so many kids in situations blame themselves. And then with time, as you age, you realize it's complicated being an adult.
Yes, yes, it is.
I keep hearing that I would make a great mother, and I'm like, emotionally and mentally, maybe. But like financially and stability wise, no, not right now, So
And you need to realize when
adulting
you have
show.
that sense of responsibility, right? So, yeah, I'm going to continue with some more comments that I thought were just wonderful. Is it Jimena? Jimena, how do you say your name? Is it Jimena? Anybody know? Jimena. Okay, good. So those are good odds. In her case, she doesn't think you need to wait for the other person to ask for forgiveness. You can forgive for you and your process and release yourself from the burden. That's exactly right. Very good. But I don't think forgiveness means you will accept the people in your life. I forgive people who wrong me or people I love, but I don't want them in my life anymore. Precisely. I've learned not to make excuses for anyone anymore. If you're silent while witnessing injustice, if you wrong someone and you know the difference in right and wrong, then there is no excuse. And you can forgive, but like I said, you need to keep your boundaries and things need to change to be able to heal. So people and relationships can grow. Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Hockeytown John says, I've spent my entire life making excuses for the behaviors of others. Therapy has taught me that this is unhealthy and unsustainable. Absolutely. Yeah, it is not something we can continue to do, right? And Shire Kitty says, I have a child with borderline. Forgiveness is the only way to show validation and love to someone who doesn't understand their emotional dysregulation. She truly doesn't hurt me on purpose.
Absolutely.
And that's, yeah, that is
We've
something
had
that
many,
we need.
and I just want to
I've had
say,
many conversations about that. Yes.
I just want to say to like any parent of a, I hate the word neurotypical because I just hate like that structure, but like a neuroatypical child, it like takes great strength to jump into all that medical knowledge, like learn about the brain, learn your own child, struggle. And I feel like people who don't have someone in their life who struggles in that way are so quick to judge. And it's amazing that through, like she was saying, like, I forgive because I know she doesn't understand.
Yeah.
But for her to see that from you and then to know there are other people out there who can be allies to me, who will see me, because I think also it isolates you when people see your, I hate the word disability, but it's medical, but you know what I mean. they see that you're different and they isolate you, but then you can slowly teach them, like, you are a beautiful person and there will be people who are going to want to learn and accept you the way you are and make authentic connections. I just want to say to any parent that is going through that, is like, you're doing great. Also, F the haters. They don't know what they're talking about. I was going to try to sugarcoat that one, but I was like, nah, let's just go there.
Yeah, no, let's just do it. Let's just do it.
And just a little side note with what Indigo was saying, my Kim went, she hit a button. Just a little side note is my daughter works at horse stables, and she's autistic. And the boss came to her and knew and has worked with and likes to hire those type of people because they do so well with the animals.
Yes.
And she knows all that. She came to Christina and she said, you know what? I want you to know there's a horse that my daughter just has fallen in love with. And she said, he's leaving next week. And didn't just say, oh, you know what?
Guys. Okay.
When you come back, he's gone.
I hit a button on my phone
she
and
knew
it was a bad thing.
That
Can you still hear me?
She knew. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
She knew that Christina needed to have.
And I forgot what I was going to say.
You know.
So.
That knowledge
welcome
of
to my neurodivergence. You can't hear me?
We can hear you, but you're talking over.
You know, that she just knew that my daughter needed to have the knowledge that this horse was going to leave, and not she's there. The horse is there one day, and then when she comes back next week, the horse is just gone. She needed time to be able to say goodbye and realize that and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, boy, do we need more employers like that.
We absolutely do, Mary, because, you know, that's something that not a lot of people think about, that people need time to process those emotions that some people don't just pick that up overnight.
Oh, yeah. My daughter would have been devastated.
That was great. No, that was
go to the barn.
That's great to find people like that. Yeah.
Oh, she said she loves hiring people like this because that are on the spectrum because they do so well. And she said, Mom, I could have gone there and then my horse is gone. I don't get to say goodbye. And I thought that was just wonderful. I'm going to crochet that lady a blanket one day.
That's pretty neat because it does help with the autistic children that we have around here. They take them out for camp during the summer out there. Yeah, that is something and they get attached so easily.
Oh yeah, they do. Misha, you doing okay over there?
Yeah.
You're driving away from all of us.
Well, that's the rear view mirror. I made that picture a while back. So
I love it. That's what I'm going to do.
We're like, oh no, we scared away Misha.
You can never scare me away. Y'all are stuck with me. I don't care what y'all think, what y'all say. You're stuck with me.
That's another thing that stuck out to me. Now I'm mixing names and stories, but someone was saying it was Brian, how there's duality. And I think that's really important because, like I said, healing yourself, it's not just healing your adult self who went through something. Like, trauma compounds, like, more than one ingredient goes into making cement and a foundation for a house. And, like, trauma can build on trauma. And so you could have generational trauma, like with my grandmother and my mother, and then from my mother to me. And then I went through my own traumas on top of that. And it's the duality of it is you can have periods of like joy and calm, right? And then not. And I feel like forgiveness is somewhere in that gray area, right? Because a lot of people will say, oh, forgiveness is a dumb concept. I don't see a point with it. And
that's
I
exactly
think
why we're having that conversation.
The very
today.
early stage of pain is that you're embracing your pain and you don't want to forgive. You just want to be angry and scream into the void. And, you know, I think
or imagine
over time,
yourself running them over or something or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
I mean, really, but you get tired. I think you just get tired.
Yeah,
I did that with my uncle.
I did. Just exhausted from all my energy being spent on hate and revenge and me plotting the ways I'm going to get back at this person when that's not me. That wasn't who I was, and I was not going to let it turn me that way.
That is so it right there. Whenever your forgiveness is causing you or somebody else to feel things that are not you, we have to find ways to let it go. That's exactly
And I
it.
did.
Love, not hate.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to do that with. I had to do that with my uncle because he inappropriately, just trigger warning, touched me a couple times. And when my daughter was old enough and he was living with my grandmother, I just said to him, you know, I know you probably don't remember, and I forgive you. But let me just tell you right straight out the gate, you touch my daughter in any way, shape, or form. And I said, I'm not going to wait. Like my parents, my dad said one more time and you're gone. I said, I'll be calling the cops right away. You'll be off to jail. So I forgave him. I didn't have a close relationship, but I also set very specific boundaries, and he knew I'd do it too.
Right. So you didn't let your daughter be put in the same position. Right.
No. I mean, my grandmother was there, and I gave him specific instructions when she was over what was supposed to happen and so forth, and she was protected 100%. And by then, he wasn't drinking. Whenever he would drink, he'd act like a fool. But by that point, he was not drinking. So
I was just going to mention, today we're talking about forgiveness, and on December 3rd, we're going to talk about healing. You know, so one of the first steps in healing is forgiveness when it comes to emotional healing, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a nice little continuation there. Sorry, I hit a funky button on my phone and it did bad things, and I went away for a while. Now I'm back.
You're grounded.
Take a vacation.
All right.
It'll be all right.
All right.
Just take a vacation, Kim. That's okay.
This may be a two-parter, Kim. You know.
Do you know what? That's actually not a bad idea.
Because you had about 6 questions, and I think we're only on the second.
I know. Yeah.
No, actually, this is just going to be a very short. I want 2 sentences from each of you. Is it a once and done, or is it a continuous thing? Mary, you're next.
I think it's continuous. You have to be continuous, and you have to realize that you do it in your time, not anybody else's.
Okay, Brian?
I'll refer back to my earlier thing. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Right.
Always remember. Because behavior, you can flap your gums all you want. Blah, 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 blah. But behavior is key. When what you talk and what you walk matches each other, then yes, never forget. Because you never know. And eventually a leopard shows its spots. So.
Yep. Crystal, do you find it continuous or a one and done?
Very much continuous. It's as you peel back the layers of the onion, as you heal, you find different things that you need to forgive, and it might be forgiving yourself each and every layer. So yeah, it's very much continuous.
Absolutely. Keela, how about yourself?
It's continuous, but it's not for the same thing. It's like Crystal was saying, as you peel back those layers, because once I do it, I'm releasing it, it's gone. I want it out. I mean, what's the point? If you're going to get it out. You forgive, it's gone. But as you peel back those layers, you find something else. And there's going to be something else. And it's a continuous thing. We're all growing and living.
Awesome.
Yep.
Misha, are you there? Okay. So for you, is it continuous or is it a one and done?
Well, I mean, I think pretty much I've said how I feel about it, except for the fact that I always say if you can take people and you can have an imaginary shelf, like the house. I love the analogies with it. So I would always tell my girls, everybody in your life, if you have them and you put them on a shelf and you dust them off and you look at who they truly are and you see them for who they are, you get to decide if they go on a shelf right beside you or if they go on a shelf further down the hall It's your decision where you keep them as far as your location to them. You don't have to keep them on your mind. You don't have to keep them in your life, but you do need to be able to forgive. You do need to be able to address it, come back later, because, like it's been said, we aren't always, and that was such a great point. I wanted to touch on it again, is we aren't always in a place to be able to forgive or understand or know. And so go back, be willing to go back and look and reflect. Don't ever just say, hey, this is the way it is. I'm done with you, unless it's something that you truly are okay with saying, I'm done with you. So.
Absolutely. And Indigo, how about yourself? Is it a one and done or is it continuous?
It's continuous. It's like with a river, there's cross currents.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can swim across, and sometimes you have to swim diagonally. Just pull you down to the next thing.
Exactly. And for me, sorry.
Oh, just really quick, I wanted to say I was agreeing with Sophie, I think, where she was saying that in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf sent 3 eagles to Mount Doom, one for Gollum, one for Frodo, and one for Sam, because he still believed that Smeagol Smeagol could still be inside Gollum. And I think that's the message, right? There is a potential of goodness. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
No throwaway people.
That's right. And I was going to say, there are times for me when it's a one and done. And it's a one and done for people that haven't hurt my heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, different situations. Yeah, I mean, if it's not something like this so deep traumatic, if it's just a misunderstanding or a mistake, that's a one and done.
I guess I'm thinking a little bit deeper than a mistake or a misunderstanding. I'm thinking even of people who might actually have done something that I would find typically not forgivable. But at the same time, I'm going to forgive them and then I'm going to let them go. Because otherwise I'm just pulling them back in.
Right.
So then it becomes a process. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so there are times when I need it to be a one and done. Pardon?
Good advice.
Yeah. And then there are times, like you've all said, where it is a process where you do have to peel the layers and say, you know what, I'm releasing this. But then there's this next thing. I have still released this. Right? Brian, what is it you'd like to bring up?
Well, like I said earlier about my sister's father, that was a situation one and done, partially because he was dying, but it was I found it real easy because I understood why after putting together clues over the years and all that stuff. I understood why he did why things happened the way they happened. Why he was the way he was back then. Didn't make it any easier going through it, especially because I was a kid. But yeah, it all depends. It's just all depends.
So Kim,
yes.
Okay, so Brian's saying that. Okay, so I'm going to say this. He's got. I faced this so recently. The same monster that, which he's not a monster to me anymore because I had to lay eyes on him. So he's just he's nothing. He's not a scary monster anymore to me. But he is my brother's biological father, and my brother is only 10. I'm 50. My brother's 40. And he's been in the Marines. He's been married. And my brother tried to end himself a few times this last year because he wouldn't tell anybody. Nobody knew. And we just found out that he was doing the same thing to him his whole entire life. And it made me reevaluate. Do I really forgive somebody that never really changed? But yeah, for me, I had to. So still the answer would be the same. Now, am I pissed and mad and hurt? Yes, I am.
Oh, yeah.
Because my brother laid in on a ventilator, and my brother was a Marine. He's a veteran, and he's 40 years old. But he never would say anything. And now he has finally let it out, and my brother is living his best life, and I'm so proud of him.
You need people to hold to hold the space without trying to help. And that's my struggle, is I always want to give people solutions, and there's just
I had to
not
back up.
one. Like when you're
Mm-mm.
hurt that deep, or like when I see like my best friend, I almost 150'd him because he stopped responding to me for like 4 months
Mhm.
because he tried to reconnect with his crappy family.
Mm.
And he said, "What, you would have just done that to me?" I'm like, "You're damn right your life means more. Get
Yeah.
pissed at me after. Get pissed at me
Get mad
after
at me
for
afterwards.
saving
Yes.
you, but I will do whatever I have to make sure that my best friend is alive." And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing, is people have to be able to hold space for your pain. And I told my friends after what happened with Carrington, people would ask me how I was, and I'm like, the honest answer is I'm crap. I lost my house. I had to transfer my job. I lost a lot of friends. My ex did all this stuff to me, and I would see it on their face, like the knee-jerk reaction of wanting to say something to make it better. I'm like, you can't. I'm not telling you what happened so that you can tell me how to feel better. You asked me
Right.
how I was, and I'm not fine. And I think that's it.
Mhm.
You have to give people the room to not be okay,
Yes.
That's right.
Absolutely.
and not beat yourself
Like,
up for falling apart and losing a job and, not getting it together. Like, grief is also part of this, of
Yes.
forgiveness.
Mhm.
Because I didn't
mhm.
just grieve that relationship, I grieved the person I was before that relationship. The
Exactly.
person who could just meet a romantic partner and trust them from day one. I can't do that anymore.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I think that's it. Like, we grow into, I'm not a different person than the person I was then. I just learned a very hard lesson.
You're
And I'm
just the
getting
same person
myself back.
further along.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Janet says, I think my definition of forgiveness is different. I'm listening very closely, Janet. We are waiting with worms in our mouths, bated breath, to find out your version of forgiveness.
I've never heard
Also,
it
by the
said
way,
that way. Oh my God, that got me really loud. That's why I muted myself, because my laugh is obnoxious in a headphone.
Okay, so
for
when I was
Janet,
growing up, forgiveness meant letting go and accepting that person again, right? That's the way I think we were all raised, right? Once you've forgiven, that person is now okay.
But you don't
Forgiving them for
forget.
something horrendous and disconnecting to me is moving on and not giving them power. I think you're right. I would fully agree with that, Janet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Again, he is not forgetting.
Mhm.
Fool
Yeah.
me once, fool me twice.
goes
That's
on
right.
the thing too. I'd also like to say, Janet, there's
Yeah.
many of us who are praying and sending you love and lighting candles, and we all are just rooting for you to hurry up and get to feeling better, because we love you and we know that you've been kind of struggling with it. So,
Yeah.
however anybody wants to put it, we love you.
Mhm.
And to anyone in the
Okay.
chat
Yeah,
too,
sending vibes.
if you have any doubts, we see you.
Yeah.
And we don't see you. When you're not here, we don't see you, and we know that you're
We
not
can't
here.
care
Like,
for you at the same
we're a
level.
community,
Yeah.
and I think that's the thing, is when you care for someone or a situation so much, and you're put into a position where you have to go through the process of one and done, or a longer
Mhm.
process of forgiveness, it's like, I never stop loving the people who hurt me,
Mhm.
but that's who I am. If I
Yeah.
stop loving people, I stop being myself. So,
Yeah.
like, that's what I've learned over time, is that you can still care for the people who hurt you, but like Yamena said, like, you can decide not to let them back in.
Absolutely. And like Mary Lynn says,
Yeah.
I got through it.
Yeah,
I rebuked it. Sorry, Brian?
Go ahead.
Did I?
Go ahead.
Okay. Mary Lynn says,
Well,
I got
well,
through it.
what?
I rebuked it. I forgave the person involved. I said goodbye to the evil and said, thank you, Lord, for your love of me. So part of what Mary Lynn is saying, I believe, is that God has helped her learn how to forgive, where maybe she couldn't feel it in her own self. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Mary Lynn happens to be my mother. So Mama, tell me if I'm right on that one. Hi,
Mama.
So I happen to know who it is in particular she's talking about. And that person was very difficult to forgive. Very difficult. So Sophia says, I forgave people for what they did when they didn't know better. But behavior becomes a choice at some point. And then you have to forgive to cleanse yourself from their mess and live freely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Jimenez says, I forgave my ex-husband for me, but I don't want him back because he keeps bullying me. Just yesterday, he did something horrible using my son as a weapon to hurt me. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I will never accept him back in my life in any way, shape, or form, but I forgive him and I will let karma deal with that. Perfect. That's exactly right. That's exactly
so
right.
So important. Last night, I was very upset and went to my vlogging and recorded something. And I'm so mad because I was so upset that I didn't check out my audio and you can hardly hear it. But it's really, really an important message whenever it comes to that, because your children, when you're going through it, we got to think about what they're going through, that we're not at that moment. And that in those moments, we're still mom, but sometimes we can't think about anything but those moments. And they're there too.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of you, Jimena, for handling things the way that you are. You are just outstanding.
She is, Misha. She is an amazing human being.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah. Okay. The next one. How do you forgive when there's no apology? Or can you forgive when there's no apology? What do you think?
Oh boy.
This is the big one. Let's shake it up here a little bit. Let's start with Indigo.
Yes, I raised my hand. I'm like Hermione, I'm like, pick me, and Snape is like, not you. No, what I learned through my own therapy as apology is that you grew as a person. If the person who hurt you didn't grow as a person, then no matter, like Brian said, no matter how much they flap their gums, the words don't mean anything. Like, I apologize to people after I went through several weeks of therapy and like had to think, okay, sure, that person hurt, or I perceive something that person did as hurtful to me, but then I chose to react in a hurtful way to them. You know what I mean? And there's just some mental, like, I have to kind of reconcile this with someone in my life where I'm like, I don't know that they're mentally capable of apologizing, because they would have to be mentally, emotionally capable of connecting that their direct action hurt me. And after months of me trying to explain myself, it just,
Their
so for them,
self-awareness
I was
just
like,
isn't
you
there.
know, I'm still not all the way to forgiving them, because it was, like Crystal said, layers. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yes,
Can I go
Brian?
next?
Yes.
Okay, because this question here was one of the ones that I really identified with, because I'm not going to get that apology, that forgiveness, or that like, I'm not going to get that closure with, for example, my father.
Yeah.
He died in 1997. This was the pisser. Earlier that year, I was going through some stuff, and it was, and I realized it takes three to, in the case with my parents, it took three to tango. Okay. So I was going to forgive my dad for I was going to say, tell him I resolved to lay it all out. I didn't want to do it over the phone. Because when we had landlines, I wanted to do it face to face. He lives in West Virginia. They were going to come visit because he hadn't been here in Arkansas since the early 80s. Of course, he was in poor health and everything, and he ended up dying of a heart attack. So I never got that opportunity. My mother, on the other hand, I've tried to get that process going.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said earlier, it seems to me she doesn't want to face her sins. And I say that because she's a hardcore Christian. Or at least she was, still is. She still got those beliefs, because I grew up in the Church of Christ and all that other stuff. And with forgiveness, forgiveness is divine, divine. There was an accident. She was in an accident in 1991. Yeah, summer 91. And she says she forgot everything beforehand. I think she chose to.
Maybe.
Or uses it as an excuse. So yeah, that there. So like I said earlier, I got all kinds of mommy issues that I would like to get taken care of to help me on with this last third of my life. But it's really hard to get them taken care of when the person doesn't want to, when the other person involved doesn't want to face their own issues.
Right.
Again, suck it up, Chuck, and move on.
Yeah. Okay, Keela, let's go with you next.
I don't need an apology because that doesn't really mean that doesn't do any. An apology is not. That's not why I forgive. I forgive for myself, so I don't need that other person to even be included in that. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. That's.
No,
I'm
it
trying
totally
to get
does.
it. Okay. Yeah, I don't need that other person's permission to give them forgiveness. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Not needing that person's permission to give them that's big. That's huge. Love it. Yes. Mary, how about yourself?
Well, when my daughter wanted to reconnect with her biological father, when she was in her 20s, when she was getting married around that time and so forth. So we had talked about possibly him attending the wedding, which didn't happen. But there was a phone call that I had with him, and it took 50 minutes. And after me saying several times, I have my part in it too. I made mistakes. I'm sorry for things I did in the situation. It took him 50 minutes to get in. Mind you, there's a 20-year gap, 23-year gap between this, where he finally said, well, forgive me for what I did. And he said, no, what I said. So I never really got a forgiveness. And I don't know if he totally meant it. I mean, it was kind of like he said it. It's kind of like it was the best I was going to get. I wasn't going to get any more than that. He wasn't going to apologize for all the abuse that was put on, or the fact that he trigger warning and threatened my life at one point and all that stuff. That stuff wasn't even on the table. He was going to apologize for what he said, but that was the best. And that took 20 some odd years to get through. Just in a 50-minute conversation before I'm even going to get to I'm sorry. And it was like, it was hard. And so I'm never going to get the apology I feel I deserve for all that was put through, or that my daughter is going to get for why he did all the things that happened. But it is the best that we can do. And I have to choose to say, I forgive you. And I'm going to as somebody who's a believer, I'm going to say, I'm going to pray for you. And I've had to pray, even though I haven't felt like it, because it's what God's asking me to do.
Okay. So. Crystal, how about yourself? How can you forgive when there's no apology? Or can you?
I kind of see this from three different perspectives. My oldest brother apologized to me face to face and said it sincerely. His actions changed, and I believed he honestly was sorry for what he did. Yes, fairly easy to forgive him. Does not mean that I have a relationship with him. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually is both our parts. We both don't really want connection. Second brother, he has said he's sorry till the cows come home. Actions have not shown that. He sits there, he says he's sorry, but he says, sorry, but I was abused too. There's always the excuse with him. And so I don't believe his apology. He hasn't proved to me that he is apologetic. Now, my mother, I'm never going to hear, I'm sorry for what I did from her. For the simple reason she's dead.
There is that.
I don't think even if I had connected with her or had been able to talk to her in those last days, like I had cut contact a year and a half before she passed because I couldn't handle it. She was still abusive. She was still manipulative. And she would sit there and you would try and say something about what she's done wrong. And, oh, poor me, what did I do? And I'm not a good mother. And of course, we all jumped in and, oh, you're okay, mother, okay, it's okay. Because we knew where it would lead to. And I don't think any of us wanted to deal with that.
No.
She couldn't see that she had done anything wrong. So there's no way she would even ask for an apology or say sorry. Can I forgive her? Even without that apology? At some point, yes. But I'm not there yet.
That's very fair, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Misha,
someday.
how about yourself? How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm listening to everybody's comments, and like, I'm the mother that's hurt her children.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have never felt love before in my life until I had my children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to work through this. It's hard. But I'm also trying to understand, because if I cannot work through this, I cannot effectively be a mother and show example. And so it's one of those things, you know, it's you're darned if you do, darned if you don't kind of things. Because if you give yourself grace, then it can be taken that you are forgiving what you've done. And I can never do that. I can never forgive what I've done. I don't expect anybody to. But I cannot stay in that space. I am totally sorry. But I can throw a plate against the wall and break it, and I can look at that plate and say, I'm sorry 1,000,000 times. All I could do is love forward.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are able to, and I've been told that they have, and they are very gracious themselves. I have some amazing children. You know, that's a given. But what I did is not forgivable. It's not understandable. It's not that I give excuses for either. I just have to understand where I was and what was going on. And know that within my heart of hearts that I love them beyond. And I hope that one day I can prove that over what I've done. And so in living my life the best I can, trying not to allow that. I mean, sometimes nobody will ever know what it's like to be in another person's shoes ever. Not sometimes. But sometimes I think we get our feelings and our lives and we cannot look through any other glass. And so when things are done, they're assumed, or this is how it is taken, but it's not necessarily what is.
Yeah.
And if we can look at others with that sort of, at least attempting to look at that out of our shoes, then we can go a lot easier through life and not being so judgmental. Because if you say somebody, they are just, I've all my life have been accused of being and saying and doing things that I'm not. I've been very misunderstood most of my life. And people are like, you're just being a smart aleck. And I'm not. And so I've had to defend that part of me. You never know what's going on mentally in another person's mind. And so if somebody does say they're sorry, it goes along with what y'all are saying. The actions better don't. If they truly work hard towards fixing this, then that is something to consider. But if they don't, if they continue to do this over and over again and repeating the same thing, they're not sorry, because that's not what I'm sorry means. If you still do it, if you're saying I'm sorry, saying that I understand what that could have done. Saying I'm sorry is I see what happened because of my actions. And if you're not willing to work on that and to change that, then you're not sorry. And if these people are not sorry for what they've done because they're showing they're not, then that is on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even an act of forgiveness. That is understanding and walking away.
Yeah.
I think that's really important sometimes. Just walking away is all you can do.
Yeah.
Because
It doesn't mean that you have to bash them. It doesn't mean that you have to bash them. It doesn't mean you're on a different trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 days is going to be a day that I don't know. Well, I say this every year. I don't know how I'm going to get through it, but I have to get through it with forgiveness and with grace and with God, and just close my eyes and go through it. And it's a really, really hard day. And I'm hoping that with everybody that I've met here and all of the connections I've made on here, it's not going to be as hard or soul wrenching. I know it will be, but I'm trying not to go that far with it. But my grandson is no longer here because of things that he did it to himself, but he was 13 years old. And forever will be in 3 days, and that this day comes around and it's so right at Thanksgiving. And it's just like, I have so many things to be thankful for. But what did we not see that was hurting that child? That's one thing I haven't been able to forgive myself for. What did we see that was hurting that child, and we couldn't see it?
I just want to say that's a really common feeling for people around, but speaking from my own experience with attempting that, if you don't want people to see it, they're not going to see it.
Yeah.
Because society tells you that they're not going to shower, they're going to miss work. I didn't miss a single day of work in the 2 weeks leading up to it. I got dressed every day. I went out with friends, and it's not.
Yeah.
He was squirrel hunting with his brother, and he came in, and it was that quick.
Both of my attempts were unlike
It'll
Indigo.
Be okay.
There was no
warning.
planning. It was because I had an instant panic and the deep soul-wrenching knowledge that the world really would be better without me. And so there was nothing to look for, no signs.
And I think the thing is, the fact that you were so aware of your grandson's situation is a lot more than a lot more awareness than I've seen in other situations. And I'm not trying to judge anybody. It's a very tough situation to be in, but yeah, I have never lost someone to that, so I'm not going to try to speak on that half, but I know for me is I like wrote a note to my friends and my family to be happy. Like that's how like warped my brain. I was like, don't cry. Like because in my head I was
Thank
like,
you, Indigo.
like I won't be a problem anymore. Like you don't have to worry about me
Thank you, Indigo.
anymore.
That means a lot. That really does mean a
Exactly.
lot.
Yeah.
But look at all you've done, and
Yeah.
like I do believe the people we pass are still with us. But when you have a grief that deep, it's hard to want to believe in signs because I think we're so used to the physical body, but it's the spirit that was the person. And I think, I mean, I know that you struggled with other losses, but
Okay.
they're not gone.
No, I think this is the one that I've understood the rest of them. I don't understand.
Suicide is almost impossible to understand in and of itself.
13 years old.
Just
What could be so bad?
What it is when you're young, and I had thoughts like that too when I was young, but I had aware parents, but for me it was when you're a child, you have no concept that like November 27th of 2024 is one out of 365 days
Right?
for 90 years. We're living to 90 and above. That day is the only day you see, and you go hour by hour. And if anything in those 12 hours is soul crushing, like you and your friend get into a fight, it feels like you're never going to get past that day, and like your life has changed forever. They don't necessarily have the ability to understand and internalize that it will get better.
Right. That tomorrow, like I said, stay another day.
And that's something that I tell people all the time is it's not depression that'll kill you. It's lack of hope.
Yes.
In your mind, it will not get better. Right? It's that lie right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can I say something that might illustrate a little bit to? Okay, Keela, your grandson was 13 years old, right?
Yeah.
Okay, at 13, I was a 13-year-old boy once, and I was really, really, in some ways, I'm really, really lucky I'm here, right? A lot of crap happened to me, like I've told you, of the essay, the teasing, the bullying, this, that. Some people would be, if I would have done something like that when I was that age, early, because sensitive kid and all this, some people would have been like, it wouldn't have been surprised. The hope, I've always kept that kernel of hope alive. So that's why I'm here talking to you guys today.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful.
Even at my lowest.
Well,
yeah, there it happened, and anyways. I hope that makes you feel a little better.
Thank you, Brian. Thank all of you. Truly, it's all because of y'all that I'm just. This is another day I'm making it through.
Yeah.
But
I mean, my grandfather ended his life. So did my uncle. And when I was a teenager, I thought, I don't want to be here. And I was the only child for my parents. And I thought, Mary, you cannot do this to them. Your mother has already lost her father via this. You cannot leave this world. You cannot do this to her. My dad and I had a difficult relationship, so it was more my mom. I thought, I cannot do this to her. And it was because of those two people that went before me that I thought, I know the pain of this, and I can't do this. But I'm telling you what, it was by a sliver at times that I was like, I don't want to be here. And I thought, I can't go to alcohol and drugs because that was in our family. I went to food. That's how I covered up the pain. Because if I hadn't had that, I said to my mom, I don't know, you're lucky I'm here. because I didn't want to. I came bullied at school. I come home and my dad was verbally abusive and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I took it out on myself.
I was
That's
13
been a long
when
healing
I
journey.
first tried it. And it was after a fight with my dad, who said that he thought that I should never have been born. So I wanted to give him his wish, right? And then God brought a song to my mind called I'm Giving Up, Giving Up. And there's a lot of comments that I have starred. And I'm sorry, people. I'm just going to let those all go for right now because they are... Read the chat. Go back,
The
listen
chat,
to this.
yeah.
Read
The chats are really going. But I
The
just wanted
chat's
to I just
wonderful.
did want to say too, I think the thing with kids is they remember who loved them, and it's not the people who loved them. And it's a different world. Like I grew up on the cusp of the internet starting back when people scared their cats with oranges. Okay, like that's the videos that I watched before Shane Dawson got popular. I cannot imagine what my bullying experience would have been if it was on my phone, on my home computer, everywhere I looked. Like you can't. It's that feeling of not being able to escape, at least for me. And I think that's the thing is you don't know who to trust, even though you know you should trust your family. Do you know what I mean?
He was so loving that he waited until after the 28th, which was his brother's birthday. Seriously.
Keila, my attempt was when I was a teenager. I was 17. And I didn't go in that day thinking, I think I'm going to attempt to take my life today. To me, all I was doing, it had been an extremely stressful day. It was my middle brother's birthday. And all I was doing was wanting to do something to relieve the stress. I didn't think, oh, I'm going to jump into this pool and try and kill myself. That was the last thing from my mind. And yet, when I looked back, because later on that night, I remember thinking, I can't even do that right. So it's hard to say what was going through his mind. It might have not even been an intent.
Oh, it was.
To actively attempt?
It was.
Okay.
It was. He waited for his mom to walk out the door to go smoke a cigarette. His sister to get in the shower. He sat down in the middle of the living room. It's over. Before she could pull a cigarette out. It was over. But they found that he was being cyberbullied and that these kids at school made him make a pact that they were going to do a suicide pact. And then he was the only one that carried through with it. And it just, I'm like, what made these children do this? I have a really hard time with that right now.
Yeah.
Keila, I'm sending you a giant hug.
Me too.
It'll be okay, Keila.
I know it will be.
You're not alone. You've got us.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Thank you all.
We're going to hold on to you.
Thank you all.
We're going to hold on to each other because we know we love you.
I love you too, and I really mean that. Thank you.
And to everybody in the chat, and thank you. Keila keeps saying it, but even if one person was in the chat, you know, and even though I had a card in my wallet I made it after that situation, even though my therapist said, if you're in crisis, call me, that thought never crossed my mind. It did. I go, oh, my therapist said I should call her, but I don't have the money to pay her. But she literally is there for that reason. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I think it's like when you feel that lack of connection, it could be as simple as that. And I can't say why kids do what they do these days, but I thank the universe that I had. The one thing my dad said, and it was true, was if you're uncomfortable at any point in your life, and I'm still alive and capable of doing so, I will come get you, or I will call somebody that can come get you. And he was true to his word. After the bad night with my ex, and I went to work and I tried to go back and sleep on the couch and I couldn't, and at 3 a.m. he came and got me. I mean, that's what it is there's no time. And to anyone in the chat, even if people don't immediately answer, there's no time where somebody won't listen to you. Like, we
Just
mean
stay
that.
another day.
You know, we have emails that we share in the chat. We have Facebook groups, whatever. Like
988.
988 are literally there for that reason, but also, yeah, that's what this is for, making a community. Or like Misha says, a village.
And
I'm so big with the
that's
Semicolon
why.
Project. And that's hang on. It's upside down, but the Semicolon Project with my music.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's why we're on my channel. We're doing Christmas Connection. We're doing, and I struggle with fibromyalgia, so I know it's going to be tough. I don't care if I got to do it sitting in my bed or doing sitting places and whatever. But we're doing Christmas Connection. We're doing a live every solid day from day 1 all the way through till January 1st, because we want people to come into my chat and wherever other chats are happening and connect. It is life-changing, guys. Unbelievable.
And that's what the village is doing as well.
Connect.
And like, you know, Keila said, it's hard for her. There's a lot of people where traumatic things have happened around the holidays. And
that's right.
Yeah, so, you know.
But that's the village is also trying to fill that gap as well. We're trying to have lots of different resources. I have a very good friend I love dearly, and just my support, that's not enough. We have the support of a group of women together who love her, who lift her, and that's what we want to do in the village as well, right? So, Keila, I'm so grateful. I had never met you before today officially, so I'm so grateful that I was able to meet you.
Thank you.
So grateful.
Thank you.
Now, this may sound like a low point to end on, but I think this might be an appropriate place. Brian, go ahead.
Also, we can end on a high note, because without the inspiration from a certain person, something wouldn't have happened for me today.
So proud of him.
You got your car?
Yes.
Yay!
Show the pictures, Kim. Show the pictures.
I'm showing.
I was so excited when he texted me.
That's great, Brian. I'm so happy. Oh, look at it.
That is
Brian,
Yeah, it needs some work done to it. It was a salvage title, but I was with what I was able to pull together from without this community's help, without the SBTV community as messed up and beautiful and fractured and all that as it is, without you guys, I wouldn't have that. And you know,
I'm so happy.
and like I said, without a certain person's encouragement,
I just took a little reword.
So yeah.
And to end on
awesome.
The car metaphor, maybe it's not that you're leaving behind what's in the review mirror, but you're seeing what's in front of you through the windshield.
Yeah.
Because you're starting at a new horizon.
And speaking of new horizons,
yes.
Mary, with her channel, was able to put together 2 shoe boxes to go to kids in a developing country where
they'll be
Christmas
Samaritan's Purse. That's who
Samaritan's Purse. That's right. Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm
So
so
these kids are going to
excited.
feel the
Yay.
connection that we are able to do from our small little places,
All
reaching
right.
out around the world, so that these
And
kids know that they aren't forgotten.
And that will be a tradition that will happen on our channel every year. We did 2 this year. I hope to grow it to 3 next year.
Oh, wow.
And we are also doing, which is so exciting, and I'm enjoying putting them together, is we're doing cookies as connecting. And so if you have a cookie recipe, I'll put that in the chat. You can send it off. And what is interesting as I'm putting these things together is people are sending pictures of grandparents and stories of how they're doing the cookies and their traditions and so forth. And it's so neat to be able to have that. Misha send in a recipe. I got that done. And then I'm asking people to choose their favorite Christmas song to go with it. So it becomes very personal, and the short goes up, and you don't have to have content. You can have content. You can do a video on your channel on how to put the cookies together. Doesn't matter, but we're going to fill the whole thing with cookie connections. I need more cookie recipes, guys. I only have until the 5th. So send them in.
I'll
Very
send
easy
in
form
more,
to fill out.
honey. You want food? I'm your girl. I will send you more cookie recipes.
I forgot I was going to do that. Thank you for the reminder.
I got
So,
Mr. Huggins in too.
I want to thank everybody for being here.
Thank you.
First of all, the panel. You are such a blessing. Thank you. Thank you, every one of you,
And
for
thanks
taking
having us.
time out of your evening,
Thank-
for sharing,
Thank you.
for being willing to give to these people who are in the chat and anybody who may watch us in the future. This has been important, and I really am glad each one of you was able to contribute to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you
so
for
much.
inviting us.
Thank you for inviting us.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
Even if my chair went
Um,
down,
It's always a pleasure.
I finally stopped fighting.
As long as you don't fall
Mary's-
out of it when it
Mary's
does
chair
that.
goes down. My honey walks in on live, bringing me my pain medication, and he's like, "Oh,
Hey, take
He's
your meds.
cute.
You need it.
Tell
just wanna
Mr.
say,
Keela
guys-
he's adorable.
We're still looking for some more channels, real quick. We're still looking for some more channels for the 24-hour channel chain. We've got some amazing people that have already signed up that is going to be there with us. Nobody. Thanksgiving is one of, if not, I think it's the second scariest day. Because we don't always have somebody with us. And so we're working very hard to make sure that nobody ever has to be alone. Unless they choose to be. They never have to be alone. You guys, if you would come and hang out with us, if you would share and let people know that they don't have to be alone, just being there, being the village that we're trying to build. It's going to
On
be
Thanksgiving Day.
It's going to be Thanksgiving
on
Day.
I know.
Thanksgiving Day.
I have somebody that wants to. I don't know if she's gotten in touch with you yet, Misha. I'm messaging her right now.
I've had an amazing reach out already, which is it's humbling and beautiful, and it's just, gosh, we're going to be able to do this. But if we can just get the word out, and we got some stuff. I've got some.
I think
I gotta find me a co-host. I'm not getting on there by myself now. It looks like all my people's going on their own channels. I'm like, wait a minute.
We can all go on each other's too. We can all hop in
I
and
know.
hang out, just going everywhere. And like with the game shows, we're going to have a lot of people that are going to be ready to jump in for that. People that
Yeah, I
are
had
scared
trivia.
out on their own just yet because it's an intimidating thing. Look at, I mean, a lot of us have done it for a minute, and we still. Misha messes up on the daily at least 3 or 4 times through each time.
I mean, thank God Keela came and was like, you got to put yourself on stage, silly Billy. And I was like, oh, the stage.
I can't do it by myself. I don't do it all by myself.
She's like, they'll hear you if you put yourself on stage. And I was like, oh, right.
We were doing so much, though. We were trying to figure it out. But that's
I'm going to do my best, but
it'll be a little bit easier.
I'm going to do my best, but I'm going to be traveling that day. So I'm gonna,
don't even put yourselves out. You know, it's not something that we want you to do to feel like you're obligated to do something. It's Thanksgiving. If you guys have plans, by all means, please.
Okay.
Some of us are
So
living
for
vicariously.
Thanksgiving, I'd like to have
I
a
wanna do
panel
it,
of
though.
Canadians to bless our American friends because our Thanksgiving was in October. And I would love to be able to have a panel of giving thanks and why are we giving thanks, so that you don't have to be online or whatever. You can come and go in the chat if you like. But my Canadian friends, please reach out to me on my Facebook, or you can reach out to me on my email. Doobie-doobie-doo, there we are. And let me know if you are ready, willing, and or able to come on the 28th. We will get together backstage at 5:30 Central Standard Time, just to kind of get a feel for each other, kind of do some ground rules, sort of like what we did today. And then we go live at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, and we'll go for as long as we need to. If tonight took 3 hours, it needed to take 3 hours. If it takes 1 or 2, either way. Okay. So
I know. I'm like, I gotta go to work. Oops. Sorry, y'all.
I've got a live. Actually, we're planning on doing, as long as everything works right, we're planning on doing a live tonight at 9. So I was like, 3 hours. Holy crap.
So just 2.
That's truth.
And then Kim,
Well,
you'll
I'll
be
have to
doing
listen
a live
seriously
with.
till I gotta work.
You're going to be doing a live with me to show how you're putting your cookie recipe together for the cookie connection.
that's on the 5th, I believe. Da-ba-da-ba-dum. Yep, the 5th.
And then the 10th.
We got some good cookies. So if you go over to my channel, Blessed to Crochet, you will start seeing they're in short form. You will see the shorts, and there's a playlist. There's a playlist for all the shorts for the cookie connection. So you can go there and look at all the shorts. And there's another playlist for ones with channels, and all the ones I've done so far have content. And then I'll have a playlist once somebody does something without content to it. But you can go to that playlist and they'll start putting in there, but they're all short form.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
I think you sent me. Can someone that knows me on Facebook send me the link for the cookie thing?
It's in the chat. If you scroll back in the chat, it's there.
If you go to my channel, you'll see the.
Is it up
you go to my
in the
channel,
description?
If you go to my channel and go look at like the short I put up for JJ cookies, that was the first one I did today. And then Ranger cookies in there. If you read the description below the recipe, it'll show you the form, and it's on our link tree too.
Blake, Joni Mitchell is from my city, the city that I live only a few minutes away from.
Don't get him started.
I'm not getting him started. I'm just giving him something to enjoy and sleep tonight.
We got some serious.
We're doing the long goodbye.
We're doing the long goodbye.
I feel like we need to do the short goodbye.
Okay, everybody. Thank you for coming. Remember, being neurosparkly is almost as good as being, neurotypical, but frankly, we're better. And being neurospicy is what a lot of people say, but you know what? I like sparkles. I'm a sparkle.
Don't make me go ghost pepper on you.
I got my nails done. I'm happy. This gives me joy.
Oh wow, those are pretty.
Shines.
Thank you.
Love them.
Anyway, have a great evening, people. Thank you for coming, and I will see you again on Thanksgiving Day in the United States. And we will be talking about giving thanks. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.